It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good...
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, a bit of nostalgia, some reflection and reviews heading your way as every story aims to look back at the year that was. With the year winding down, a tennis legend's journey draws to an emotional close. Rafael Nadal bid farewell to his international career, leaving everyone in tears. We get you a ringside view of Spain's ode to their biggest sporting hero. It was quite the emotional night in Malaga. India's football team, meanwhile, ends 2024 winless. For the first time in a decade, India failed to win a single game in 2024. What's the reason for this slump? I'll decode India's torrid year on the international circuit. And we have a sneak peek for all you Formula One fans as a very interesting, fiery season comes to an end. The fight to the finish is what we are about to witness. I get you a very special, exclusive interview from one who's right in the thick of it all. What are the predictions and the review of Formula One 2024? All of that heading your way, but first a look at the top stories on Sports 360. Argentina and Lionel Messi could play an international in India next year. India's southern state, Kerala sports minister made this announcement earlier today. Messi last played in India in 2011 when Argentina faced off against Venezuela in a friendly at the Salt Lake Stadium in Kolkata. That ended in a goalless draw. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has reportedly agreed to a one-year contract extension. The 53-year-old Spaniard joined Manchester City in 2016. Since then, Guardiola has helped City win 18 trophies, including 6 Premier League titles. His contract was due to expire at the end of the current season. Over in cricket, Sri Lanka's third and final one-day international against New Zealand was called off due to rain. Batting first, New Zealand scored 112 in 21 overs before the downpour began in Palikle. Sri Lanka's Kusal Mendes was awarded the Player of the Series for his brilliant batting through the tour. Sri Lanka clinched the series 2-0. The Indian government, meanwhile, has refused its blind cricket team from travelling to Pakistan for the T20 World Cup. The World Cup is scheduled to take place in the Pakistani cities of Lahore and Multan from the 23rd of November to the 3rd of December. This, of course, comes days after BCCI refused the Indian men's cricket team's travel to Pakistan for the ICC Champions Trophy that's set to take place early next year. And wrapping up with news from hockey, the Indian women beat China in the Asian Champions Trophy final just moments earlier. The lone goal in the game, of course, came from the stick of Deepika Sehrawat. And that is how it stayed till the very end. India, with this win, managed to defend their title and stayed unbeaten through this campaign. It's one of those moments that the tennis world was dreading to finally face and come to terms with, Rafael Nadal's swan song on the international circuit. Now, I realize it was easier to talk about his retirement all these months with numbers and an analytical mind. When would Rafa say bye-bye? And what moment would he really choose to do it in? Could he go for another year, one more slam, one more title maybe? That's what he had trained us to believe. The man who always ran down that extra shot on court, made his opponent sweat it out and hit that extra winner. With Rafael Nadal, giving up was never an option when he played his tennis. So naturally, even when we all pondered over his retirement, many of us probably thought there was more reserve fuel left in that tank. That's what his career and his tennis stood for.
With passion, with love, and with the determination to be as good as possible, no? And I am not the kind of guy that I will say, no, I will not change things, because for me it looks arrogant, no? Of course I will change things, but one thing have been so important for me, because I'm gonna leave this professional tour with the calm that and with the personal satisfaction that I give my best almost in every single moment.
The logical side of our brains, of course, was telling us otherwise, how his wins column was dwindling post his hip injury, and he was not the same when he got back. But in Malaga, surrounded by the most fortunate fans who could make it to witness the legend say bye-bye, his loving family and friends, none of those struggles over the past 2 years really mattered.
This tournament has a very special meaning for everybody, for all tennis enthusiasts, due to Rafa's retirement. And that's because he has not just been an extraordinary sportsman, but an extraordinary person as well. That is what sets him apart, because you can be a great player, but if you're not a good person, then it's not worth anything. And I think Rafa has represented that in tennis across the globe.
I feel very sad. Very sad, and I remember playing and watching in 2002, 2003, when Federer. It was wonderful moments, but for 20 plus years he's been a remarkable player. One of the best, if ever best, in the world.
Those fans really summing up what we've felt through these many years watching Rafael Nadal. And even though Rafa ended up losing that match he was playing last evening in the Davis Cup tie, everyone was there to celebrate what a fabulous journey this Spanish superstar had scripted, and how he put tennis and Spain on the global map, stamping his class, particularly on the clay courts in Paris. Rafa seemed to have thought through his final phase with some consideration, how his last year on the circuit would really be. He was available for his fans, the people who grew up watching him play and win, who cheered for him, for whom his tennis and what he really brought onto the sport meant the world. He made sure his family was there in the last year, of course, his wife and his very cute son, Rafa Jr., who particularly made this last difficult phase of saying farewell to everything Rafa held dear easier. His son's presence, in fact, made the journey a happy one for him, of course, yes, and for us too. We enjoyed watching the antics of his smaller version on the court side. And when the emotions were getting to be a bit too much, especially, he chose the platform, the moment and the match to do it in with a lot of care. In Spain, for Spain, and alongside his Spanish mates, showing to the world that whatever he achieved in his career was all tied to his roots. It was for his country. A Davis Cup farewell where the next generation stood alongside him in awe, inspired to at least attempt in taking his legacy forward. An emotional moment for the young Alcaraz as well, who was there. He had big shoes to fill and an even bigger legacy to live up to.
I think he was one of the best ambassador, for tennis. I mean, his legacy is going to be eternal. It is, he has been great for tennis, for the sport in general. Yeah, it is difficult, at least for me. I don't want to think that I should continue, the legacy that he has left. It is difficult, almost impossible. He was one of the players that put tennis, in the top of the sport, in the top of the world. So it is just great to have had Rafa in tennis and in Spain and in my life.
The moment was not lost on the many fans who had, of course, gathered from all across the world. They were moved with what played out last night, and it showed. Many couldn't hold back their tears.
It was very emotional. And at the end, there was all the speeches, goodbyes, and tears. My mom cried, and I've also got a little... My eyes were a bit red. But I think Rafa was the most emotional.
And so we enjoyed it. We're very happy that we can come again for the next match. We didn't expect it. And Rafael Nadal is a very sympathetic boy, I think. It's a pity that he stops, but I can understand it. And I think it's good for him to take more time for his family and his kids.
And it is this bond that fans and Rafa, of course, share that also brought out the emotions in Rafa himself. Hearing them chant his name would have done it if it was not the Spanish anthem.
I have so many people to thank that it is difficult to start in any way. I will start with those who are here today. Thanks to all of you, the public. Sincerely, it has been 20 years of professional career in which you have taken me flying. Always in the good moments you helped me to win the next point, and in the bad moments you pushed me to keep fighting. I have been able to live with all of you. I want to generalize to Spain, but also to the world. I have felt very fortunate to receive so much love from all over the world, especially here in Spain.
The night would have been incomplete without Roger Federer making his presence felt. In fact, they played out video messages by Federer, Djokovic, Serena Williams, even David Beckham, just to show how Rafa transcended the sport itself. And you immediately remember that opening day at Paris Olympics. The person who was the highlight of that ceremony was none other than Rafael Nadal. Federer's heartfelt note a day earlier was in fact just the precursor of what was to follow. The rivalry, the friendship and the relationship that these two, Federer and Rafa, shared was something that the sport only benefited and grew from. Such episodes in the history of any sport is rare, and the mutual love and respect these two shared made watching tennis during those golden years that much more rewarding and enriching. Rafa ended the night saying all he ever wishes to leave behind. What he wished truly to be remembered for was that he was a good person hailing from a village in Mallorca. That was met with a resounding cheer. I can safely say that there will be many things that his fans and the sporting world will remember him by. The sport will only, though, be poorer without his raging, never-say-die spirit on the court. The year 2024 is drawn to a close. Normally, this is when we review what the year has been like for various sporting teams. Today, we look back at the year Indian football has had. It has not been the best of years, and the latest result, which happens to be the last international game for the Indian team, ended in a draw. Earlier this week, India managed a 1-1 draw against Malaysia in an international friendly. They were trailing by a goal till Rahul Bheke scored the equalizer. The scores remained 1-1 till the whistle, and with that draw ended a torrid year for Indian football. This is the first time in 10 years that India has remained winless in football in one whole year. India played, of course, 3 matches in January. They lost all 3 games to Australia, Uzbekistan and Syria. This was at the AFC Asian Cup. In March, there were the FIFA World Cup qualifiers, which is when things began to head south. India played 2 games against Afghanistan. They played out a goalless draw in the first and lost the second. June saw the remaining FIFA qualifiers against Qatar and Kuwait. India lost to Qatar and played out yet another draw against Kuwait. 2 matches in September, the Intercontinental Cup. They lost one of those to Mauritius and the other to Syria. 2 friendlies followed in October, which they drew with Vietnam, and then, of course, the latest some days ago against Malaysia, a draw. They failed to clinch wins against opponents lower ranked than them, like Afghanistan, Kuwait, Syria, and that also enraged football fans all over the country. There were angry reactions that kept pouring in. Also remember, Indian fans ended up cheering Afghanistan that were India's opponents when they lost that game. That's how frustrated they were with India's performance through this year. So what really affected the Indian team this year? One, of course, Sunil Chhetri's retirement. It was bound to happen someday. They were all waiting for the inevitable end when it did. It signaled a shift in the momentum.
I never thought individually these are the many games that I've played for the country, this is what I've done, good or bad. But now I did it. This last 1.5, 2 months, I did it. And it was very strange. I did it because probably I was going towards the decision that this next game is going to be my last.
And then, of course, came the massive fallout between AIFF, the Indian football governing body, and former coach now of the Indian men's football team, Igor Stimac. The matter between the former coach and the association ended up with a $400,000 compensation. There was a lot of fiery exchanges, some bad blood there, with the coach being sacked post a dismal FIFA World Cup qualifying campaign. What worked against him and was how defiant and confident he continued to be despite the results not really matching up to his promises.
I mean, the key point for me staying here is because we had executed tremendous work in the past 4.5 years. We started one very difficult process. We didn't lie to anyone. We were very honest, telling the truth, what needs to be done, how patient we need to be, how much harder work needs to be placed on the ground, off the pitch, on the pitch, how much we change the mindset of the players, how much we change their approach to their profession.
To be fair, there were some historic moments that Indian football enjoyed with Sunil Chhetri and Igor Stimac at the helm, like the SAF Championship title and a good solid run in 2023. But seems like that blinded him and prevented Stimac from creating opportunities with a team that was also evolving the next year. The new coach too has started off on shaky ground. Manolo Marquez is at the helm now. He knows the Indian setup a little too well, having been part of the ISL, the Indian Super League framework, but that's probably the only thing going in his favour. Somehow the Indian team fortunes have not turned around. Sandesh Jingan made a return after a 10-month injury layoff. But that had little impact on the game. The other man under fire has been the other experienced component in the Indian ranks, goalkeeper Gurpreet Singh Sandhu. Though he's had his moments of brilliance, consistency has been a miss. With drastic changes at the top, captain and coach this year, India seemed to be taking a bit longer to find its rhythm again. And with a win not in sight yet, the pressure on Manolo Marquez is intensifying. It's been a very interesting 2024 when you look at the Formula One circuit as well. We started the season thinking it might just be another one-way traffic heading the Red Bull way with Max Verstappen leading the charge. But what a season it's turned out to be. Some surprises, some debut wins and a fight to the finish. I caught up with India's former F1 driver and now an F1 expert commentator, Karun Chandhok, who's been in the thick of it all. He has a sneak peek into how he views the various twists and turns and controversies that this season threw up.
We had 2 years of max dominance and, I think we were all getting a little bit bored of it, frankly. So when we started the year, the first 5 races, again, we were a bit nervous because, Max and Red Bull came out. Basically, they carried on where they left off from last year. He won, I think it was 6 out of the first 7 races in Australia. He had a technical issue, so he could have won that as well. But I think from Miami onwards, we saw that McLaren had a car quick enough to fight against Red Bull. From that moment on, we've had 15 fantastic weekends as we head to the final triple header. I walk into the track and you talk to teams and drivers and all these people, and nobody knows who's going to win. You want to turn the TV on and see a contest where you don't know the outcome. A lot of people have speculated that he's been under pressure and, Lando's put him under pressure and all these sort of things. I don't believe that. I think Max is actually a perfectionist. And I don't believe it was pressure, I believe it was frustration. I think in Brazil was a race where he was able to prove and show everyone that was the case. His anger and frustration came from not having a car that was able to fight and win. And in Brazil, when the rain came, he not only did he win, and I think he could have won that race by 1 second and still got the same points, right? But he wanted to send a message to everyone to say, listen, I'm still the top dog. I thought Silverstone was a fantastic race watching. The middle of the race, in a normal dry race, because wet races are a bit unusual and you see strange things happen with safety cars and red flag thing. But in a normal dry race at Silverstone, we had 5 drivers who could have all won the race. You had 5 contenders. And I genuinely, I was standing in the commentary box saying, yeah, I don't know which one of these guys is going to win. And then to see Lewis come through and win, Italy, being on the podium, I was very lucky. I got to go on the podium with Charles Leclerc and stand on the podium with that, sea of people there cheering him on and just standing with Charles. And, you get goosebumps just standing there.
Catch the entire interview on Friday at 7 p.m. as we look to build up to the race weekend that's going to be in LA at the Grand Prix this weekend. And of course, there's lots more that he's spilled the beans on. So do catch that interview then. Time for last serve. Ethiopia of late has not been in the news for pleasant reasons, but Addis Ababa, the city of Addis Ababa, came out in large numbers to show their long-standing passion of long-distance running. There was a sea of runners, more than 40,000 of them, dotting the streets in their biggest road race. Take a look. A sea of yellow that could give India's Chepauk fans during an Indian Premier League game a run for their money. But that wraps up First Sports here. I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, do take care.